Hi everyone, welcome to Forensic Examinations for the examination. In this video we're going to conduct finally our forensic examination of the evidence files that we created from the compromised computer. We're going to be using the SIFT Workstation, which I talked about previously, which is free to download, and within the SIFT Workstation we're going to be using a program called Autopsy. We're also going to be using a program called AnalyseMFT to convert the MFT tables from that forensic image and from the forensic image that I created of the computer before we compromised it. Alright, and we're also going to be using Harlan Carvey's RegRipper within a Windows environment to analyse a particular registry file, just so I can show you a few bits and bobs and some interesting information in that. Alright, so this video is going to be cut at 15 minutes, but when I did a dry run during the week it went to an hour, so I'm going to probably split it over a few videos, only because YouTube cuts me off at 15 minutes, but I'll get them all up in one go so that I don't leave you dangling for a few days. Alright, so like I said, I'm going to be using Autopsy to start with. Alright, now here is Autopsy. Alright, now I've already done the examination, all the bits that we need to do, all the long stuff where you hang around waiting for things to finish, just so we can zip through it and I can show you the results. But what I'm going to do now is take you through how to create the case, set it up, browse the files within your image, and then I'll show you the results of mine. Okay, so this is the introduction screen to Autopsy. Incidentally, Autopsy is written by a guy called Brian Carrier, who also wrote the book File System Forensic Analysis, which I have and which I'm reading again. I would highly recommend, if you're interested in the subject, that you pick it up and have a read. I'm going to be using it a lot for referencing amongst other books, and it's full of good stuff. Okay, so we're creating a new case and we need to give it a name. Now this name is applicable to that particular case. You call it whatever you want, basically. Whatever your department or unit or whatever you want to call it uses as a reference for your cases. So if I call this, I've already called it Forensic Examinations 4 when I did the dry run, so I call it 4 real. Alright, description, this is an optional one. It's basically, you want to give it a description of what the case is about. So compromised, I've already done it, compromised HD, 160 gig HD. You name your investigators who are able to work on the case. You don't have to. I don't think it has any big effect on it, but I mean, I think it probably works when it comes to things like producing reports. So let's create a new case. Alright, now this is your case directory, obviously. So in the folder Forensics, you're going to have a folder of the name of your case. Alright, in this case it will be Forensic Examinations 4 real. Configuration file is Forensic Examinations 4 real, and then it's case.aut. Alright, now in that is going to be your pointers to your evidence files, things like that, which you can mess around later on with if you wanted to. We're not going to. Right, so we want to add host. Okay, now the host is going to be the name, just some details about the computer that you're going to be examining. Alright, so I mean, it's a HP Pavilion. I've already named it previously. That's what it was. Another description. So, you know, it's a 160 gig, compromised 160 gig. Time zone, I'm going to put GMT because that's obviously where I am. There it is. Now, time skew adjustment. I can't remember if I mentioned it in the previous video, but you will need to check the BIOS clock on the computer. Alright, make sure you do it with the hard drive disconnected, obviously. This is so that if the BIOS clock is not accurate, however many minutes or hours or days, months, years even, fast or slow, you can put that in as an adjustment so that the display time, the file time shown for the files, like the file creator times, it can be adjusted accordingly so that you don't look at it and say, right, well, somebody was doing something at 8 o'clock in the morning, when in actual fact it could be 5 o'clock at night. It's just that the clock is wrong and it throws it out. Alright, also we've got the alert hash database. Okay, now this is designed to save time with regards to things like if you're looking for illegal material, if you're sifting through a couple of million files, it could take a long time. This alert hash database will contain the hashes for certain illegal material, and it should fairly instantly identify these files within the file system without you having to trawl for it. The ignore hash database is kind of the exact opposite, where you can filter out the files that you never really have to examine, and that could be exe files for things like Word, off the top of my head, Word, Excel, things like that. You're never going to look at the exes for those because they're just standard. So you can filter those out and bring down the number of files that you were looking at. Okay, so add host. Again, back to the configuration file. There it is. You've got HP Pavilion has now been added as a host within your forensic examinations for real folder. Alright, and these folders will build up as you add more computers for examination. Alright, so add image. Now this, I'm going to pause this for a second because I haven't mounted the drive where my images are, but we are now going to point this to the image files that we created previously. Okay, so let me just pause this for a sec. No, actually I'll take you through it in case you're not too sure. Alright, let me bring up a command prompt here. Go in and root. Alright, fdisk-l to list the drives that are connected. My 320 gig is where I've stored the evidence files. Alright, so I should already have a folder which I've created previously called SDB1, and I do. So if I just mount the device SDB1 to mount SDB1, alright, brilliant, mounted. Now, actually, let me just check where the stuff is, sorry. CFE. Right, it's going to be FE2 new deleted is where the stuff is. Okay, so I'm going to add the image. And it's going to be SDB, there it is. It's already there from where I've previously added it. Okay, now you need to put, if it, as it says, if the image is split, like a raw file or an encase file, alright, then enter .star. Now when we used EWF acquire in the last video, we used an encase format, so it'll be EO1, EO2, EO3 as it grows. So we use .star, alright, and it was a disk image that we took, not a partition image. It's a full disk. Now the import method here, you've got symlink, which is a symbolic link. Alright, now this will act as a pointer to your evidence. Alright, so if you looked in the forensic folder as previously shown where the config file is, you'll see files with the same names as your evidence files. Now they aren't actually your evidence files, they're just symbolic links that point out to the drive where your evidence is. Alright. Another example of a symbolic link is if you look at the root directory of a Windows box that's running Vista or Windows 7. I'm not sure if you can see it in Explorer, but you can definitely see it through the forensic software, and I'll show you later on, is even though profiles are now stored within C/users, you will still have a folder there called C/documents and settings, which is what XP and a couple of older versions of Windows did. Alright, and that is a symbolic link. That documents and settings is a symbolic link to the users folder. Alright, copy will copy your evidence files to the evidence locker on the local drive, and move will do exactly what it says. Basically, it'll move it to the evidence locker. It's not recommended, as it says here, because if the computer crashes for whatever reason, your evidence files will become corrupt, alright, and lost. However, sensibly, you should back up your evidence files anyway and keep them somewhere safe. Alright, so next screen. This is a list of the evidence files, EO1, EO2, EO3. Alright, next. I'm going to pause this in a minute because I'm not actually sure how long it's been running, and I want to keep it under the 15 minutes. So we'll come back then in part 2 of this video. In fact, I'll do it now.